This could take the entire market by surprise. We have some things coming out recently on the, I would say, fundamental side, but some of the technicals are proving this. So we got to look at the technical side. We're going to talk about something that I don't think a lot of people are paying attention to. I don't think the news is reporting on it as much, and it's not in the mainstream, I would say, narrative, right? Not a ton of people are talking about it, and it's something that can really disrupt stocks as far as next week coming up to next Tuesday. So we really have to pay attention to this, and let's just get straight into it. We're going to come back to the SPY. We're going to come back to the Qs. I, first of all, just didn't want to waste your time, and I want you to know what that story is, right? I don't want to bait this until the end of the video. I want you to know that this is the story that I'm actually reading into, and the reason that I'm reading into this is because we're going to look at volatility in a second. We saw a major move upward towards the end of the day on Friday, and I think that is very important to pay attention to, but port workers from Maine to Texas are set to strike on Tuesday. Expect shortages and higher prices. So there you go. Right when we start to say, hey, inflation is starting to go down, we have people who are probably struggling still in this economy and need more money, or at least aren't being paid what they're worth. I don't know what the situation is. I'm going to read through it more and more. Maybe we can talk about it on Sunday when we go through the shorter time frames and give you those weekly ranges. But port workers from Maine to Texas are set to go on strike next Tuesday. And so this is something clear. And they're even telling you expect shortages and higher prices. So if this does happen, we actually could see this affect the market. It could mean people are going to struggle a little bit. We might actually see some kind of black swan moment. Now, that is just something that I'm putting out there. Obviously, at the end of the day, we trade like water. We pay attention to the signals. And so we're going to get back over into the SPY and just state what would happen if something like that actually took place. Well, the problem with that happening and stocks actually being at this area, you guys know that we were talking about, hey, this could go make that new all-time high. We've done it, right? So we've commented on that weeks ago, how down in these areas we were finding a bottom, and most likely we either go up, and if we get past these levels, yeah, you're going to an all-time high. So actually, I think we set these levels. But for the most part, we need to say, if this is going to be bad for the market and that turns down, how could that really affect things? Well, the problem with this is now you do have that clear momentum signal. You do have a very clear divergence. You see that tilting down, and you see that very specifically on the RSI at the same time. So there is a vulnerable place here for stocks, and I think that if something bad would happen, aka a supply chain disruption, that can really mess things up. We all remember how the COVID times came out, and when we had the supply chain issues, that really affected the market. And that's something that we're going to go through here. And we could see higher prices, meaning people might have to get cash from somewhere, aka take it out of assets and put it into cash. And that's why we're going to talk about the dollar in a little bit. But the Qs would still be holding that topping pattern. The topping pattern that most of the time happens at major tops is the Qs are not able to go to a new all-time high, but the SPYs are. And you notice the SPY has done that, but the Qs have not. So all they would have to do is roll over here and go into negative territory, and we could see something ugly. I think monthly expected moves for next month are going to be very, very important. So I highly encourage you to join the Patreon. We give those weekly expected moves. This will tell you what the options data is pricing in. And maybe next week, come back for Sunday, make sure you're subscribed, because we're going to give you these purple lines, these weekly ranges. And if the options market is pricing in something bad, these might be pretty big. So we will be paying attention to this on Sunday. But as far as it goes right now, you do have some signals that could be ugly. Obviously, if things start to turn back up, right, we're going to be playing the trades, right? We're going to be playing with our signals. We're not going to be guessing anything happens. We're just going to trade like water. Now, let's real quick just pop over to the dollar, because I think that this is an important thing as well. We've been paying attention to this for a while. We saw basing out signals here. We saw basing out signals here. And now we see basing out signals still here. They are still here on those shorter time frames. They're a little bit wonky, but they are still there. And notice this, that was not able to cross with this big bullish move to all-time highs. You would expect the dollar to come down, because as the dollar comes down, that means people are going into assets. So why is this holding up so well? Well, it could mean that some people are actually holding it up by selling their assets to people who are getting FOMO'd in. So that is something key to pay attention to. Now, if we do cross down, I'm still leaning towards that 99.41, right? So if nothing bad happens, I still think that level could experience some kind of bounce. But for now, we have to say, why is this struggling so hard to just cross down? It's really bottling up in this area. And so maybe a big move in one direction will take place. And that's a key thing. So we want to understand which direction is that going to go. Is the dollar going to spike up and assets going to drop? Well, volatility might give us a little hint here. Why is this happening? And I think if this happens early on in the week, we might be in some trouble. All right, we might be in some trouble because this here is a daily time frame. You have the crash signal already confirmed. You have the exact retest of that 200 now. Right here you had it, got that little bounce. Right here you had the higher low, got it to go a little higher. We saw the topping out, said watch for it to go to the 200. It goes to the 200, tests it exactly, and bounces off of it. So what we're looking for here is the MACD crossing up, and this would suggest, if this MACD is crossing up, that news, that possible news, right? I'm just saying this is possibly what could cause some problems. The port workers from Maine, right? Port workers from Maine to Texas are set to strike on Tuesday. Expect shortages and higher prices. Well, this might be saying a little bit of that story early on. So right now, it actually makes me say, if this crosses up, I'm really leaning towards Tuesday is going to be maybe an ugly day for the market. So we'll pay attention to it. Obviously, we're going to continue to watch the signals, but I wanted to bring this story to your attention because you are someone who is actively trading in the stock market or trying to learn how to trade in the stock market. One thing you're want to pay attention to is we do the technical side most of the time, right? Most, like 99% of the time, technicals. But if we see a technical thing happen and it happens to be a weekend where they could really trap people, we want to see what story could be causing this, because this seems like, hey, everything's good, right? We're cutting rates. Everyone's getting euphoric. Things are starting to pop off again. And then we see SMCI and a couple other things drop. We see volatility start to spike up. And then we get this story about how people are going to see even higher. People are struggling right now. Now they're going to experience even higher prices at the grocery store, even higher prices at the gas tank, possibly, if this port strike actually does happen. So that is something very clear to pay attention to. And that's when you want to pay attention to a fundamental thing, is when you can actually see a technical signal, see a potential thing that not a ton of people are paying attention to. People will start to talk about it more and more. I just highly suggest, and this has nothing to do with stocks, I highly suggest that you maybe go for a grocery store run and fill up your gas tank this weekend, okay? So the main takeaway here is we do have something that could potentially disrupt the market, something that no one would expect, right? No one's really talking about this as far as, people that are paying attention to the market. I'm not hearing it, so I think you should pay attention to it as a just in case, right? I'm a just in case kind of guy. If this thing does pop off, this would make total sense. The technicals here look like, hey, people are about to fly into cash and people are about to see volatility increase dramatically, so it's a time to be very, very cautious. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really do appreciate it. I know it was short and sweet, but I think it was just that. I think it was sweet. It's something to pay attention to, and I think that is something very clear that we can see as something that would be bad for the economy, is this port strike that could increase prices at the grocery store and the gas tank. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really do appreciate it. There are links down in the description to get some courses below or join the Patreon. But best case scenario, hey, join us for Sunday, because we will give you those weekly expected moves. And maybe the options market can really help us out. When I calculate that can really help us out in seeing, is an extreme amount of volatility priced in for next week? That will be interesting. Thank you so much. Have a good weekend. Make sure to go have some fun. Don't stare at stocks all weekend. Have some fun. Go eat some good food. Do your thing. And I hope you have a great weekend. See you Sunday. Peace.